Allow me to introduce you to chicken bingo. Chicken bingo happens when you take a big old piece of plywood. It needs to be like at least 5 feet by 5 feet. Divide it up into squares, put numbers on the squares like it's a big bingo card. You bring that to your event. You have it in a corner of the room. You've got a little chicken wire fence up around it. In the back of the room, somebody has brought a live chicken, and they're slowly feeding it lettuce throughout the evening. Meanwhile, people are coming up to your chicken bingo thing and buying spots on the board.
Oh.
And then at the appropriate time, you take the chicken out, you put him down on the board, and you see where he poops.
I'm from the country, so I
winner.
love that game. Yeah.
You are really glowing right
I
now.
know.
You really did just perk up quite a bit.
That's so fun. Where's the bird going to bomb? We don't know.
Exactly.
Ah.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the goat taking shit on the stage, it's like, oh yeah, like chicken bingo.
Yeah.
Speaking of animal shits.
Welcome to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we share stories and strategies to turn any event or life moment into something unforgettable.
Events are wild, and the people who work in them are some of the most resilient humans on earth. If you know, you know.
So come with us behind the curtain for a look at their most memorable experiences.
As they say, the show must go on, so let's get on with the show.
Welcome back to another episode of Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events. And we are super excited for today's guest because, Libby, we haven't covered this topic yet on the show.
We haven't, and it will speak to you whether you are an event organizer, an event attender, all realms, whether you're professional or just kind of in your personal life, an event organizer.
So I'm super excited to introduce today's guest, Roger Devine, one of the founders at schoolauction.net, a company that equips schools and nonprofits with the tools they need to run successful fundraising events. Let's be clear, a lot of events involve fundraising of some kind, whether it's silent and online auctions to galas and golf tournaments. Beyond software, Roger brings boots on the ground experience, having personally chaired dozens of fundraising events for causes close to his heart. Education, veterans, and community resilience. Whether it's building schools in rural communities or pairing service dogs with veterans, Roger lives the motto, every event can and should make a lasting impact. Roger, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. I've been looking forward to this one for a while.
We paid him to say that. We paid him to say that. Checks in the mail, Roger. Checks in the mail.
Fantastic.
Well, you know, I love what you do, and I'm so excited to jump into today's conversation because over the years, Libby and I have produced hundreds of events, and so many of them, Libby, involved fundraising. Like I don't even know
and just supported and sponsored so many nonprofit events and go to school auctions. And so many of my friends, you know, have kids in school right now, and so people are always sharing links to their auctions and sharing like what they're up to. So it's definitely something that is very close to our hearts and experiences.
So, Roger, I would love to know, like, how did you even get started? Like, what led to you launching schoolauction.net? Where did it all begin?
Parenthood.
All good stories start there.
True.
Yeah, it starts with parenthood. By the time my kid gets into the second grade, at that point, I've had a nice career in software, internet services. Got laid off when he was in second grade. So I decided to become PTA president.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
as one does,
one has time,
little free time, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I was PTA president for a couple of years at his school, and during that time, we had a fundraising auction every year. And as PTA president, I was kind of talking to the team about how that happened, et cetera. And I said, you know, there's got to be software out there. I'm a software guy. I worked in software for a long time. Let's go find the software that'll help do this. And sure enough, there was some software out there. There were some of the early players were out there, Auction Pay, Maestrosoft, etc. Really did not like their business model, however. Really hated the business model because, when you're thinking about how software companies get paid for their work, and they should get paid for their work, cost something to write software, maintain it, all of that. I'm willing to pay a license fee for software, absolutely. But at that point with our fundraising auction, I was not willing to pay a percentage of what we raised. Absolutely not. I understand that this is the way banks price their services. So if we were going to accept credit cards for processing, that was going to come with a fee structure that was a percentage of what you raised. But I didn't have to add anything on top of that as a software guy. I just was like, no, why does the software company get entitled to dip their finger in the stream there? It's like, get out of the way. You're having me produce my auction, get out of the way.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay you a percentage. And so I'm looking around and not liking what I'm seeing. And then I got introduced to a couple of other guys here in Portland. We're in Portland, Oregon. Auctions are a thing down here. Auctions been a big thing down here. And they had just built something for their kids' school. And I was referred to them by some people at the local schools foundation, said, you guys should talk to each other. And then they found out that I had done software marketing and sales before. And they said, oh, hey.
We've got a job for you.
Hey, buddy, want to start a company? And yeah, the rest is history. That was about 20 years ago. We started a company, did things a little bit differently in the beginning. We did not charge any sort of a performance fee. We had a flat fee model where you would give us some money. I got to pay my programmers. But then I was done. The idea was we were incorporating the concept of enough into our pricing. I have to make some money. I don't have to make all the money.
Of course.
I can make a reasonable amount of money and then I can stop. Back then when we started, it was really all about the galas. That was about all we were supporting was a gala with a live auction, maybe a silent auction there. Silent auctions had paper bid sheets. This was a while back. And as we grew, we realized what is a truism in software development, which is that you're never done. You've never built the car. Car is constantly being modified as you are driving it down the road. And so we added in online bidding, mobile bidding, the ability to do golf tournaments, the ability to run thons and other kind of fundraisers through it. And given that we were selling on an annual subscription basis, this meant I could go to a PTA and give them a fundraising toolbox they could use all year long on their 3 or 4 different fundraisers, only one of which was going to be a big gala because, duh, they're a lot of work, right?
So much work.
Yeah. But we know how to win this game, right? We do. And so we started the company, started working with groups, primarily school-based groups. So lots of PTAs, PTSAs, HSAs, then booster clubs, young life chapters, etc. But from the beginning, we were also dealing with non-school related local grassroots charities. I could go after and try to sell our software to the American Cancer Society or the American Red Cross. That's not where my heart lies. My heart lies with the groups in our communities whose impact is really important, but maybe localized. And events really, really work well for those types of organizations because many of their supporter base is going to be located in a geographic region. We want to get together. We want to rub elbows. We want to have fun. So that's kind of been our orientation going forward. Like, if you're a big nonprofit, okay, I'll do business with you. Fine, whatever. But if you're a little nonprofit, welcome in. I'm really happy. Come on, let's get going. So yeah, that's sort of the origin story.
Every organization that I have ever worked with has done an event of some kind. And a fundraising event obviously is a great idea, and a necessary thing, but also I think comes with so much work and so many things you just don't think about until you hit it or you're in the middle of it. So what are some of the most important first steps that you think an organization, whether it's a community organization, a school, a church, whatnot, should take when they're planning a fundraising event from scratch?
The first thing to do is to do some sort of thinking about how much money you're going to be able to raise. Very difficult if you've never done an event for a particular organization before, but you got to get some sort of ballpark. Is it going to be $1,000? Is it going to be $10,000? Is it going to be $100,000?
Mm-hmm.
There's different decisions you make right up front based on what you think your capacity could be. If you think you have a community that can support a live auction at a gala, then I will tell you that the single most important thing to spend money on is an auctioneer. They're absolutely event professionals who bring in usually 3 to 4 times their fee in marginal revenue
Mm-hmm.
out of your live auction alone.
Mhm.
It's definitely the one place to start. Find the benefit auctioneers in your area. Don't settle for the local weatherman at the TV station, which happens. And really, if your auctioneer is really somebody who only sells cattle and tractors most of the time, but has volunteered to do your charity event, you might want to think about finding somebody who does charity events more often. They're a little bit different, a little specialized. After that, the next most important thing to get started on, regardless of whether you do or don't hire an auctioneer, the next most important thing I would say is get your software nailed down, because you're going to have a long planning period. If you're going to pull this off right, you usually need 6-7 months to get everything going. You can pull one together faster, but if you're an organized group and you're going to behave like professionals, you give yourself some runway. And being able to configure the software as you go, being able to enter things as they trickle in, your ticket sales, your item procurement, et cetera, being able to do that as it trickles in rather than needing to do it all at once in the last week before the event will save you a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then after that, you have to figure out the other things that must be scheduled. So venues, other support personnel, et cetera. But the big two are, if you think you've got the capacity to do a live auction, go get an auctioneer. And if that wipes out your budget for the rest of it and you have no money for software, well, I'll get you next year. Okay. But go get the auctioneer first and software second, because then, of course, if you can hold a live auction at your event, you can hold a special appeal. And one of the things that we know from our side, from looking at 20 years worth of data, is that if you can manage to pull off a special appeal or a direct ask or a fund and eat or whatever it is you want to call it, if you can manage to pull one of those off at your event, that'll be alone worth about half of the money you raise that night.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Because that's not,
50%.
you're not buying any, you're
Nope.
funding things, but you're not going home with a tangible item in your pocket.
Right. Right.
Wow.
But it's only 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
A good paddle raise is not going to go more than that because people start getting kind of itchy. But it's fundraising a spectator sport. I love to tell the story on how to position your paddle raise or your special appeal. And let's just say I got the two of you out in my audience, right? And I'm going to put you on opposite sides of the room because I know you're kind of like, each other, but you're also a little competitive. Maybe we'd call you frenemies, right? Mm. Or I'll say we got two dentists in town, and I'm going to put them at opposite sides of the room. And then your dentist number one, or say Libby, throws up her paddle to donate $5,000 in the special appeal, and the room bursts out in applause, and everybody's yay and cheering and cheering. What do you think the other dentist is thinking?
Oh yeah,
right there?
You want that applause too. The other dentist, Alysse.
I'm going to double down. I'm going to double down.
Me too. Give me some of that sweet, sweet applause.
Yeah.
So those are the top tips I have for getting started at the beginning. The one that comes right after that, though, I really kind of like, which is if you're going to do a live auction, convene a little brainstorming party, wine and cheese and crackers and, fun little nibbles and whatever. And the point is that you're going to invite over the, say, 8 to 10 people who you strongly suspect are going to be the fattest wallets in the room. Mm-hmm. Okay. And yes, I should refer to them as people, but I think of them as wallets. Mm-hmm. But we're going to invite our fat wallets into the wine and cheese little party. Maybe we've got something fun going on. And you sit down and you say, hey, look, I'm about to go start getting ready for the auction, and I'm going to go out and kick off our live auction procurement. And you know what? I could use some help in the brainstorming. I know you guys are the kind of people that get invited to other fundraising auctions. What have you seen at the other ones that gets people excited? What you're actually asking without using these words is, what do you want to buy? What do you want to buy when you come to my event, Mr. Fat Wallet? And you're taking notes on all of that kind of stuff. And this is going to give you targets. Are you going to be able to go out and get all of them? No. But you have this data in the back of your head. You have this knowledge so that maybe it's coming down to the line and your biggest, most fattest wallet is like, I don't, it's going to be kind of tough for us to come this year. Maybe I'll just get you on the other side with something. And you're like, no, I really like to have you there. But you know that this guy has on his bucket list, or rather it's on his wife's bucket list. His wife has always wanted to go to Bali. And he knows he's got this on his list of things to accomplish. Got to get her to Bali at some point. And you can come to them and say, hey, I just made sure we have a Bali trip in our live auction. You may not have gotten it donated. You may have gotten it through a consignment company. But at that point, you're getting a good wallet into the room. So they're there for your paddle raise moment. Will you make a lot of money on the Bali trip? No, because some of it's possibly on consignment or what have you. But you're making up for it with the other spending that guy is going to do while he's in the room. So have that brainstorming party really early. And, you're going to help get those wallets excited about the upcoming event. They're going to be invested in it.
Okay, so for the Raise the Paddle, I have been to many events, and it is awkward when they start at the top dollar. I'm going to say for the sake of this exercise that it's $25,000. And nobody raises their paddle. Like, you need to start at a level that you already know there's one or more people in the audience that are going to raise at that high level, correct?
Absolutely. That is the best thing to do. The
Because
best
it's a
thing to do
buzzkill if they start in that high and everybody just sits there.
What you have to be prepared for, if you're not going to poll your audience ahead of time, make a few phone calls again to the suspected fat wallets and say, we're going to be doing this. I'm trying to figure out where we're going to start. Can you give me a sense as to where you might be when things happen on event night? They'll give you a sense. You'll have some numbers there. If you really think that there's room and you need to start higher than that, the way you mitigate the crickets is that you need to have a dummy bidder. You absolutely need to have a dummy bidder in the back of the room, somebody who you have given a bid number that's not assigned to anybody else, and they don't have to commit to it. But if nobody else goes, they go, and they are a credible straw man out in the audience just to get things going. Because nothing will kill your paddle raise faster than the crickets. They just
Libby, that's not TJ, for the record. Your husband.
My husband has been known to try and raise his paddle during auction when the items are being auctioned off, and we accidentally won one time, and it was not expected, and we had to very humbly give it back right after he accidentally bought it. And they very kindly said, do not raise your paddle again at all for the rest of the night. We said, got it. We will not do that. But it was good intentions.
Roger, what do you think? Yeah, good intentions.
Yeah.
What do you think about the procurement team? How effective is it to get a sponsor or a donor that does a matching? And what's the best level for that? Because I know when I hear if I donate $500, it's going to get matched, and now my donation turns into $1,000, I'm more likely to do that than if I just raise, at the $100 level. I'm making up bad examples, but you know where I'm going with this.
Let me give you a really fun tip to kind of exploit this idea, a fun way to exploit it. It's something that your auctioneer should know how to do. It is a game called The Last Ask. Okay, so we're going through our paddle raise, and I start at $5,000, and there's Libby, yay, and then we go to $2,500, and we go down to $1,000, we go down to $500. In my paddle raise, in my software, you can do monthly recurring donations. So we sweep up with a $10 a month for 12 months donation. Great. Fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then the
I've
auctioneer
never been to an
pauses.
auction where they have that option.
It's great
Oh,
because
I would
you know how
totally
that
do that.
as a paddle raise is winding down and you're getting to the smaller numbers, people start getting itchy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a way to round everybody back up and say, before we spend too much time collecting $25 donations and whatever, and let's just not do that. Let's not waste our time there. Let's ask everybody for $10 a month for the next 12 months. $120.
Totally.
Cool. And I can say, regardless of whether you've already made a pledge, I want to see every hand in the room go up. This is our recurring donation program. It's a completely blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
that's totally feasible.
You know,
no matter what
totally
you donated early or previously. You're like, oh, I can have that on.
But then after you wrap that up, then the auctioneer does the following thing. He reaches into his breast pocket and he takes out 2 crisp $100 bills. Go to the bank at a time, get fresh, crisp $100 bills. He's got 2 of them. He's like, folks, I didn't make my donation tonight yet. Well, I've got $200 here that I'm going to donate to the cause, but I'm not going to give it directly to our PTA tonight or our organization. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use this as an incentive to get some more donations out there. So if anybody else can donate $100, I will give this $200 to the last person to make a $100 pledge tonight. So is anybody else in for $100? And it's like 312, 314, 316, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of winds down. It's like, okay, bidder number 212. You're my last bidder at $100, my last pledge at $100. So you're going to win this $200 in 3, 2, and somebody else puts in another $100 pledge. It's great. And everybody catches on immediately and knows exactly what the game is.
And that's like a fun game to watch
right,
play
here we go.
too.
That's fun.
Exactly. And it keeps going. It can keep going even after everybody catches on. It's like, yeah, sure, why not?
That's good.
I like it.
So that's how I like to do matches, or how I like to deploy the match concept in a way that, doesn't actually necessarily require me to go out and get a big sponsor for the match. I can bring in an extra, say, $2,000-$3,000 for $200.
Well, it's the same kind of thing I'm sure you guys have seen this, but the dessert dash that they do at school auctions, and it's just like people are paying $1,000 for a chocolate cake. That's not about the cake, right? It's about the fact it's about the fact that they want to be able to dash first and get their first choice of the delicious dessert bar.
And when I'm telling people how to do a dessert dash, I put in I give the following story about our 3rd grade auction. So we do a dessert dash. There's 20 tables out there. We procured 18 really good desserts, beautiful stuff from local bakeries, whatever. And we rounded out with a bag of marshmallow Peeps and a bag of Oreos.
Oh yeah.
So if you were last in line, you were eating Peeps. That was what it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we go do this, and out in the audience is at one of the tables that goes early is the husband of the 2nd grade teacher. And he's going to be the dasher. He's going to run up and get the desserts. And he's a card. This guy has just never had a serious day in his life. And so he intentionally, as the 4th or 5th table to go, grabs the Peeps. And standing up at the front of the room, he tears the bag open. And as he is running back to his table, he's throwing Peeps at people all over the room there. It's ridiculous amounts of fun.
He picked the Peeps.
He picked the Peeps. There's another variation on Dessert Dash that we love to encourage people to do. We do have a feature in our software that allows the organization to set up a talent contest and then having their guests use their smartphones to buy votes for the performers that they most want to support. So you can have your own private Dancing with the Stars, right?
Like it.
Yeah, you guys, if they're dancing and I'm buying votes for you guys, and then I see a big leaderboard and I see that you're losing, so I buy some more votes to get you back up, and on we go.
Cool.
And you can utilize this for Dessert Dash, where instead of performers, each table is the thing you're voting for. And you see the leaderboard and it's going up and down, and you can kind of see where you are versus other people.
That's really cool.
can keep buying those dessert dash dollars, you know? And
I feel like you might make more money on a dessert dash in that way than if you just have people write a static number on the sheet and give it away right away. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What does the data say?
what you have is you have the opportunity to give people a mid-voting update.
Mhm.
You know, it's like if we're doing it the traditional way, paper bid sheets, I can see where our paper is, but I don't know what
Yeah.
the other tables are doing. So I don't know whether or not I need to toss in another $100 to make sure that I get a decent cake.
I know. Oh, that's really good. That's a hot tip.
Okay, I have more questions. You, in all the
Shocking.
auctions and your software, like, what's the craziest thing you've seen donated, or the crazy amount, like, just the craziest thing that's been donated? Because when crazy things get donated, like, you still have to keep in mind you need at least 2 bidders, right? So just because something's super crazy and cool, if you don't have 2 bidders,
There was a crazy trend. This didn't show up in just one auction, but it showed up in every small fundraising auction I went to in our fair home city for about 2 years. Every single one seemed to have some local urologist who had donated a vasectomy
Oh my gosh. I've seen that
Yes.
donated before. Yes.
in the live auction. And you get more than 2 bidders. You get all of the women in the room bidding. It's like, yeah, let's do that. And all the guys are like, no, don't buy that, honey. No, sweetheart. I'm like, yes.
That, you know,
That was,
I have heard of that.
that's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, it's amongst all of the services that I've seen auctioned
That's a
off.
good one.
That's the best one I've ever seen. You know, with regards to other services, they're not necessarily as much fun to buy publicly in front of a whole bunch of other people. You know, it's like I'm not gonna get everybody in the room excited about the fact that I bought tax preparation services. No.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No, it
that's
just
sexy.
doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
I was at an auction earlier this year. It was a private Christian school that I am the alum of, and my mom taught there forever. So I go every year, even all these years later. And they were auctioning off a goat. And the person who bought the goat actually bought it and donated it to someone on the other side of the room, who then paid more money to donate it back to the original gifter. And this goat went back and forth. Not literally, the goat actually stood on the stage and took a shit. But like the battle between the two.
So it was a live goat, or it was like the opportunity to have a goat go like eat your weeds and stuff?
Nope. It was a live goat on the stage, but they bought it and then they made it go to somebody else. And then that person was like, I don't want it. And they spent more money to send it
It's
back.
like when you flamingo
A negative
someone,
auction.
but you get you got goated.
I will say I will interject one thing there. The goat is a living being. So you absolutely, if you're going to include that in an auction, you absolutely have to have a disposal plan, which is not have the sucker who wound up with it take it home if they don't want it.
Right.
You know, you've got to have a plan for how you're going to dispose of it afterwards. On a related note, I'm very, very reluctant to ever sign off on anybody auctioning off puppies. It does happen. I think it's a bad idea. If you want to auction off a dog in your auction, do it in conjunction with the local humane society. Have them bring a sample dog to the event, not the dog that somebody's going to get to go home with. And then what you're good, you know, what they're going to get is free all the fees and maybe vaccinations and food for a year and what have you. But the Humane Society will then do an interview with the buyer to make sure that they really know how to take care of a dog.
Yeah.
So.
They got to be a good fit.
But yeah, I have seen that whole white elephant style auction where it's like, let's push this off onto somebody. Yeah, I'm going to pay you $1,000 to take it away from me.
Take that,
goat.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's another crazy thing that tends to happen at fundraising auctions that I really, really love. And it kind of relates to the story you were just talking about. And this is another game. Most of the time when we're playing games at a raffle, it's heads or tails. You know, there's just not that
I'm
many.
so bored of heads or tails too.
Yeah,
like there's got to be something better than heads or tails.
Allow me to introduce you to chicken bingo. Chicken bingo happens when you take a big old piece of plywood. It needs to be like at least 5 feet by 5 feet. divide it up into squares, put numbers on the squares like it's a big bingo card. You bring that to your event. You have it in a corner of the room. You've got a little chicken wire fence up around it. In the back of the room, somebody has brought a live chicken and they're slowly feeding it lettuce throughout the evening. Meanwhile, people are coming up to your chicken bingo thing and buying spots on the board.
Oh.
And then at the appropriate time, you take the chicken out, you put him down on the board, and you see where he poops.
I'm from the country,
And that's
so
the
I
winner.
love that game. Yeah.
You are really glowing right
I
now.
know.
Libby. You really did just perk up quite a
That's
bit.
so fun. Where's the bird going to bomb? We don't know.
Exactly.
Ah.
Yeah, and when you
fascinating.
when you were talking about the goat taking a shit on the stage, it's like, oh yeah, like chicken bingo.
Yeah.
Speaking of animal shits. So, okay, there are a lot of these are really good ideas for keeping people engaged during an event, because I have been to many auctions where you lose the crowd, whether people are over celebrating or distract, whatever the reason is. It can be
Yep.
easy to lose people, and sometimes when you lose
Yes,
them,
it
they're
can.
gone and you can't get them back. So
Yep.
what do you recommend is another way to keep people, like keep attendees engaged and giving during the event? Because it is a fundraiser. We do want people there to be generous and fund whatever it is we're all supporting. So what is another way we could keep them like in the room with us?
So my perspective on this, you can provide some balance to it, okay? Because you guys are professional event people here, right? And my advice on this tends to be in the realm of don't entertain too terribly much before you're done raising money. You know, don't try to do things like have a speaker making a presentation while you still have the silent auction open.
Mm-hmm.
No, finish your silent auction. Then if you need to do a speech, etc. But I would really try to say, wait until after the live auction is done. Okay. So pair this with the fact that you absolutely need to have a way to securely store credit cards at the beginning of the night, if not before. Then tell everybody, we're going to be doing our program here. We're going to be doing this fundraising. And as soon as at like 9:30, so it's not going to be late, and like 9:30, the band is coming on and we're going to dance and we're going to do this and the other thing. And you've got your lovely entertainment set up on the other end there to try to keep them in place a little bit longer. The other bit of this, though, is that you kind of got to sit on the executive director a little bit. And what I mean is that right before you're going to do either your live auction or more commonly right before your paddle raise or your special appeal, your executive director or somebody who's in charge is going to want to get up and talk. You're going to want to get up and just say a few words and just, tell everybody how much we love them, etc. Keep them to 90 seconds. Keep that to 90 seconds. Don't let that go on for 10 minutes. You're totally losing people while the executive director is droning on. And yes, they like to hear themselves talk. And yes, it's important to allow them to hear themselves talk. I get that. We have to give them a little bit of leash. But I try to make sure that until we've finished the big fundraising asks in the moment, that I'm parceling out the fun stuff little by little.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do a little keep them there, but you're promising more after the live auction is wrapped up. Does that help?
Yeah.
It does. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are there any trends that you see happening right now in the event world that maybe our listeners would want to hop on that are not, on the other side yet?
Yeah, I saw this happening and first I noted it. Then I started thinking, oh, it's kind of interesting. Now I'm a complete advocate of it, which is that if you're going to hold an in-person gala event, you're going to have multiple ways in which you ask people for money during that. You might have a silent auction, might have a live auction, might have a raffle, et cetera, et cetera. Take the silent auction piece, just that piece, not any of the other stuff. Put the silent auction piece online ahead of time and close it before the event. You can do your silent auction online. People who are coming to the event can bid. People who are not coming to the event can bid. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. You're still throwing a silent auction. People love those, but you're doing it online and you're wrapping that piece of the fundraising up before you open the doors to your gala. The reason I love this is twofold. One, we talk a lot about how many of the organizations that are putting on these events can't staff them to the level that you would want to staff them at. We're going to be doing things with fewer volunteers than we had hoped for. So take this portion of your event, which requires a lot of setup in the room ahead of time. Got to lay all your items out and put down, all of the collateral around them. And then that's also going to make up the bulk of getting people stuff post-event, and take care of all of that beforehand. So that on the night of the event, you've got your live auction, you've got your raffle, you got your games, maybe some sign-up parties, you drink, you dance, you have a great time. Life is good. I don't think silent auctions need to come into the ballroom ever again.
And speaking of silent auctions, like, I have been to places where there's actually too much stuff. And the thing is, there's only so much money that's going to be raised. Like, it doesn't matter how much stuff there is. It doesn't mean more stuff equals more money, right? So how do people manage that? Is it grouping things together and turning them into baskets? Is it saying no to some items? Like, do you have any advice there?
I have definite advice. First thing, your first filter on stuff that's coming in is, does this belong in a garage sale? If the answer is yes, then the answer is it does not belong in your silent auction. Silent auctions and garage sales are completely different things. Some people try to conflate them. Don't do that.
Love it.
Okay. Second thing is, base your number of silent auction offerings on based on the number of bid numbers you're going to hand out. So if you think that you've got 130 people committed to your event, I'm going to say that maybe 10 of those people are there on their own. The other 120 are couples that are going to want to share a bid number. So that's a grand total of 60 bid numbers for the couples plus an additional 10. That's 70. Now divide that by some factor. I recommend divide it by 3. I'd say for 70 people there, have 28 items, 27 items. Cool. We're good. 25 maybe. Fine. You want to go lower than that? Go lower than that. That's totally fine. If you acquire more than that or more than you want to have, let's say you set your cutoff at, you're going to have 50% the number of items to bid numbers. So in that case, you'd have 35 items. And let's say that you get 40 or 45. You can bundle things together, and you can absolutely do that. And I think there's a whole lot of items that just do better if they're bundled together. A restaurant gift certificate and a movie theater gift certificate. Date night. There we go. Terrific. But the other things you can do is when you're looking at some of those things, and especially with gift cards, consider making some of them fixed price. Gift cards you can offer at face value to the first person who will take it. And the reason that I suggest this is that these things I don't count in your number of silent auction items, because those are all going to be competitive, and you don't want everybody to be able to win one. You want there to be some scarcity, some FOMO, right? This is going to help you get more bids on those items. But the fixed price things are kind of off to the side. There may be less sexy things. If you can get face value for them, you're happy. So you do a pick board of, fixed price, face value, gift cards, or similar items like that. And then the other thing would be, feel free, even with good stuff that you think is going to sell well to your audience, feel free to just hang on to it until after the event. You may have a dozen things left over from the event, right? There may be a few things that just don't sell, whatever. You can take those plus anything that came in too late, and you can have a cleanup auction afterwards, a little cleanup online auction. Hey, folks, 3 weeks ago, we held our big event, and it was a lot of fun, and you should have seen the principal dancing in their chicken suit. But it's over, and, now we're moving on, and we got some things that we have to clean up, and so here's your blue light special. I don't ever like to do a discounted run, dash for the last remaining items at the event itself, because that's just imported chaos. But to be able to do a blue light special online afterwards, like, great, let's clean this stuff up and go. You don't have to take everything you procure and sell it at the same time. You can spread it out a little bit. Those helpful bits for you? You're getting a lot of my good
We're
stuff
getting
today.
all the good stuff.
All the good
One thing we
stuff.
talked about the last time we connected was kind of the state of nonprofit fundraising and just what organizations and people who want to support nonprofits are really facing right now. What strategies do you recommend for turning a one-night fundraiser into a long-term, whether it's year-round, decades-long, whatnot, donor relationship?
One of the key things you need to be really good about is that when you're selling tickets for your event, that you're collecting the data you need to collect for your donor database. So if you need some sort of a classification, are you an alumni, for example? Collect that data when you're selling tickets to the event. The great hope with events is that your committed supporters will bring with them like-minded individuals who may care about the same things but may not necessarily know about what your group does to make those things happen. And so capture the information you're going to need for your donor database long term and take those recurring donations in your paddle raise pledge. Try to establish in the minds of everybody who's there that this is more than a one night stand. That you're in here, you're here tonight and you're opening up your wallet in order to help our organization thrive and survive. And at this point, I think we have to start doing a lot more of that with our small dollar, our mid-dollar donors, our grassroots donors. We absolutely have to be doing this. Our big dollar donors are getting squeezed. They're getting squeezed from every direction. And they need to be taken care of. They need to be treated well, etc. But at an event there, I wouldn't necessarily use the event to develop your relationships with your committed donors any further, other than by giving them some recognition from the stage, that kind of thing, things that events are good at doing. But, it's really about broadening the base there, getting those people in, getting the information you need in there, etc. Then there's some other things you can do to help make your event feel like a part of the social calendar. You really want your donors to think not just that they're coming to this event because this is a crazy year, but that this is an event that they're going to start coming to every year. This is going to be a thing that they like doing. One of my favorite tools for doing that is a particular type of a thing you would sell in an auction. We call them sign-up parties. They're fixed price items. Getting back to, you need to have some fixed price stuff in your event. If we haven't gone over that, I'll go over that in a minute. But in addition, these are for future fun events. So let me give you an example. I chair an auction for my Rotary Club. I also, every year on July 4th, roast a pig at my house. And I have a whole bunch of people over and we have a great time. It's a great party. At my Rotary Club auction, I have a sign-up sheet. Anybody who's willing to pay $25 a head to the club can come to my pig roast. Now, this is fun. It's fixed price, so anybody who's on a fixed income or what have you will be able to find a way to participate. Auctions are very elitist when everything is biddable, but if you've got some fixed price things in there, you can combat that. The other thing though is that my pig roast is a banger. It's a lot of fun.
We have the best pig roast on the West Coast.
It's one of the best pig roasts on the West Coast. I would absolutely put that up there. It's total banger. And so people, it's starting in the second year that I was chairing my Rotary Club auction, were like, yeah, I got to go to the auction this year because I got to sign up for the pig roast again.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you can create these little traditions that are inextricably connected to your fundraising and your fundraising event. And this can be a way to weave people into your community, weave them into your donor database, make them productive long term.
That's such a good idea.
Roger, you're clearly winning the game of events, in our opinion.
Thank you.
And the only way you can really win is because at some point you've lost, right? That's at least how I learn. So what is a lesson that you've learned the hard way while running an event, and how has it shaped your approach today?
What I learned the hard way early on, I'm going to go into the weeds a little bit. You got a little bit technical, but we'll come out of it with a more generalized piece of advice. Early on, we built a system where ticket sales is part of our software. When somebody buys a ticket, they are automatically assigned a bid number. Good and bad, because turns out in between the time you give somebody a bid number and they actually use that bid number, all sorts of life happens in between. And they may get married. And so now they want to share a bid number with somebody, or they may, there's all sorts of things that can happen out there. And early on, we were not good making or allowing for those kinds of changes to happen on the fly. And as a result, as we start to confront the problem and how are we going to fix this and how are we going to make this better, et cetera, so that at check-in at the door, it's as smooth as possible. And I began just to learn the hard way, and it took a year, that getting your ticket list really well groomed so that every ticket has a name on it. You know who it's going to be used by. If it needs to be updated, it needs to be updated. But, you've got a plan there. You know what every guest wants to eat. If you're doing plated dinners, you know what their relationship to the organization is. You know who they want to share bid numbers with. You link all those people up ahead of time. And I will tell my customers, I want to give you a task that's going to be a lot of work. Right? So I'm going to tell you to do this thing that's a lot of work, but it's going to save you so much trouble if you do that work a week before your event. Go in, look at all of your guests, look at every single one of them, update everything you can with regards to them so that you front load all of this work before the doors open. I tell everybody, it's like, do everything you can before the doors open. Because once they do, you got the tiger by the tail here, and it's off to the races.
It's chaos in a fun way, usually.
So is that a helpful answer? Cool.
I mentioned this before, but I just want to say again, because we are winning the game of events and you are as well. One of our values that we hold close to our hearts at our company is a saying called "for fun and for free, no strings attached." And I mean, that doesn't mean we give all of our services away for free, but that means that if we can be helpful, if we can give somebody some information just to be helpful and get them into a better spot, then we'll totally do it. And one of the values that schoolauction.net has is sharing is caring. And I want to say you have really lived up to that today with sharing so much advice. There are so many tips in this episode that are, we've got reels for days here, guys.
Fantastic. Glad to be of service and be helpful there. It is a thing that we try to embody. We try to embody the concept of sharing is caring because we sell to volunteers.
For the people.
And I absolutely embrace that. It's like my company is called School Auction. I sell a lot to PTAs. PTAs turn over every year. Nobody gives you much time to train them. That's a particular set of challenges for a market, right? And I think the only way that you can help people feel secure in what they're about to do is by telling them it's going to be okay. And here's why. Because here's how you, who have never done this before and just were a well-meaning volunteer, here's how you can pull this off.
They need it.
Then they're more inclined to go ahead and pull it off and do it and make money and come back next year and stay engaged.
Do it again. Yeah.
The other concept that I think is really important for all of us who sell into the nonprofit sector is the idea of enough. I have to be an advocate for my customers in their dealings with me. I have to know that unlike earlier in my career when I was selling to Fortune 500 companies, these organizations don't have a buyer. They don't have a software buyer who's skilled at doing it and knows what to look for and can read a contract and all of that. They don't. So either I'm going to take advantage of them or I have to be the one who says, no, we're going to charge enough. It's not free to use our software. because, it's valuable and we built it and we have to maintain it. But I don't have to take all your money.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I don't. I can just take enough. Enough is an important value for us that we try to bring to every customer interaction.
Well, that is really a great way to live by, because it just feeds into the community, which is what your organization and you are clearly all about. And I'm so grateful that we got to meet you, Roger, and that you shared so many amazing tips with our audience, because there was a lot of gold thrown down here today.
Fantastic. Well, I got more. So if you ever want me to come back.
There's going to be a part 2 for sure. There's definitely a part two. Stay tuned.
Part
Fantastic.
2.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Beats Working. If you've got an idea or want to reach out, email us at info@beatsworking.show. Remember, every detail matters, every moment counts, and no matter what, the show must go on.
Thanks for listening to Beats Working, Winning the Game of Events, where we explore what it takes to make moments unforgettable.
If you're leaving with a little more inspiration, a little more perspective, and a big side ache from all of the laughing at our funny jokes, then we've done our job.
Beats Working is a Work P2P production. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platforms.
Your support helps us keep the magic going.